Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Subcommittee on Tourism, Trade, and Export Promotion. Today's hearing, titled Sustainability for a Thriving Tourism Economy, will examine how to build a sustainable travel and tourism sector that integrates protecting our natural resources, supporting the tourism economy, and ensuring responsible infrastructure development. Additionally, this hearing will focus on how to balance the needs of businesses, visitors, and local communities to support sustainable tourism, including businesses centered around outdoor recreation. The outdoor recreation industry contributes $778 billion. I'm going to repeat that, $778 billion in economic output nationally and supports a whopping 5.2 million American jobs. That's amazing. And it's from guides and outfitters to manufacturers, small business owners, and so much more. Outdoor recreation is a major contributor to Nevada's economy. And according to the Bureau of Economic Analysis, outdoor recreation in Nevada generates over $5.5 billion in economic output annually and is directly responsible for 60,000 jobs, or nearly 60,000 jobs. And Nevada's natural wonders, every state has them, I know, but Nevada's natural wonders bring people from across the country and around the world to see our mountains, our deserts, our lakes, and our wildlife. Over 80% of our state is managed by the federal government. These public lands and waters and our 24 state parks offer diverse opportunities for residents and visitors to enjoy the outdoors, including hiking, camping, boating, hunting, skiing, stargazing, or attending outdoor cultural events. In Southern Nevada, we have many beautiful places and recreation opportunities just minutes away from the Las Vegas Strip, from Red Rock National Conservation Area to the Valley of Fire and, of course, Lake Mead. Nevada is also proud of our national monuments, from Tule Springs and its prehistoric fossils to Aviquame, which was just designated a national monument earlier this year after a push that Senator Cortez Masto and I led. Two of our national monuments, Gold Butte and Basin and Range, are in remote and rugged areas. They're full of petroglyphs that people from all over the country and around the world come to see. Our monuments are therefore critical for both preserving tribal culture and public lands and for supporting our outdoor tourism economy. Developing outdoor recreation opportunities in and near Nevada's rural communities is an important way to increase tourism spending and support local businesses. Places like Jar Bridge Wilderness Area or the Ruby Mountains in Elko County attract outdoor enthusiasts and backcountry hikers and hunters. In Lander County, the Battle Mountain Human-Powered Vehicle Speed Challenge is a fixture of the tourism season in Battle Mountain. Black Rock Desert in western Nevada, well, is home to Burning Man, but also offers opportunities year-round, including rock climbing and land speed racing. White Pine County in eastern Nevada is also a hub for outdoor recreation and tourism, with Great Basin National Park featuring ancient bristlecone pines, the Lehman Caves, and unparalleled views of the night sky, some of the darkest skies in the country, right in Nevada. In fact, the Great Basin Star Train, which I was thrilled to ride a couple of years ago, transports visitors from Ely to the park, bringing in dollars to the local community. From park to park after dark, the initiative is building on this success and encouraging astrotourism along Highway 6 from Death Valley National Park to Great Basin National Park. Of course, then we have Lake Tahoe, one of the world's most beautiful and clearest bodies of water, attracting 15 million visitors each year for its various outdoor recreational opportunities, including skiing, water sports, biking, camping, and hiking. Through this, Tahoe anchors a $5.1 billion economy and supports hundreds and hundreds of jobs. With a local population of about 54,000 in the basin and another 17,000 in Truckee, protecting the quality of the Tahoe experience while advancing the needs of the region's communities and its visitor and recreation-based economy is a tremendous challenge. Today, I look forward to hearing about the essential and successful and collaborative work of the Tahoe Regional Planning Agency to balance tourism and conservation interests in the region. Now, as the Tahoe region faces mounting challenges and impacts from tourism and recreation, its primary economic engine, its stakeholders and community members have come together to establish a shared vision for Tahoe's future and commit to finding solutions. And I'm looking forward to all of us learning more about all of our witnesses today. And our witnesses, they come from various fields, and they are experts in their fields. And we have representation from the Tahoe Regional Planning Agency, the first environmental interstate compact agency of its kind in the United States, charged with the environmental protection of Lake Tahoe. Hilton Hotels, a leader in sustainable hospitality that has made available for us today their global head of sustainability. And Western North Carolina, Made by Mountains Partnership, a leader in the outdoor recreation industry. It's my hope that today's hearing will help us to better understand the opportunities and the challenges for creating more sustainable tourism and supporting our thriving outdoor recreation industry. I also hope to discuss ways to support our small businesses, our local communities, our public lands and waters, well, through targeted investments. And I look forward to hearing each of the witnesses share their experience and expertise with us. And so now I'm going to turn it over to Ranking Member Budd for his opening statements, and then we'll introduce our witnesses. Senator Budd.
Thank you, Chairwoman. I appreciate you holding this hearing and allowing us to talk about all the incredible outdoor recreational tourism that our country has to offer. So I've long been an advocate for the countless benefits that outdoor tourism brings to our local economies. Like so many other Americans, my family and I have taken full advantage of the countless and unmatched natural assets that the United States has to offer. In fact, I spent my birthday last month backpacking with family through the Appalachian Trail. And before they were out of the home, we went to all 50 states. So today, I want to emphasize the role that outdoor recreation plays in driving growth, fostering vibrant communities, and supporting small businesses. This industry has not only enriched our lives, but also our proverbial wallets. According to the Outdoor Industry Association, outdoor recreation contributes over $860 billion to our economy annually and employs millions of hardworking Americans. Just in my state of North Carolina alone, we saw around 43 million visitors last year, which generated $33.3 billion in revenue. Now, many of those visitors were coming to experience all the natural wonders that North Carolina has to offer. This industry uplifts local communities and thousands of small businesses, be they in the form of family-owned hotels, restaurants, outfitters, artisan shops. They're the lifeblood of these destinations. They're the ones who offer warm hospitality to visitors, provide unique experiences, and create jobs for our neighbors. The success of these small enterprises is intertwined with the success of the outdoor tourism industry. I look forward to hearing your testimony today and discussing how we continue to make America's outdoor recreation industry the envy of the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Budd. Now I'd like to introduce our first witness, Julie Reagan, Executive Director of the Tahoe Regional Planning Agency. Julie Reagan is Executive Director of, like I said, the Tahoe Regional Planning Agency, which is charged with the environmental protection of Lake Tahoe, the second deepest lake in the United States, and the ancestral home and current home of the Washoe Tribe of Nevada and California. Julie is a proven leader in environmental conservation, government affairs, and community engagement with decades of experience in the public and private sectors. She has held a leadership position at the Tahoe Regional Planning Agency since 2003, and the agency itself, formed in 1969, it was the first environmental interstate compact agency of its kind in the United States. Julie earned her master's degree in journalism from Temple University in Philadelphia and is a doctoral candidate in environmental science at the University of Nevada, Reno, focusing her research on the intersection of science and public policy, building on her experience at Lake Tahoe, balancing environmental preservation in a $5 billion tourist-based economy. She is a past co-chair of the National Network for Landscape Conservation and has contributed writings on destination stewardship to the global conservation on over-tourism. Julie, Thank you for being here today to testify before the subcommittee. So I recognize you for your opening remarks.
Thank you. Thank you, Senator. Good morning, Chair Rosen, Ranking Member Budd. I'm so pleased to be before your subcommittee. Thank you for the kind introduction, Senator Rosen. I am Julie Reagan, Executive Director of the Tahoe Regional Planning Agency. Our mission is to protect Lake Tahoe while supporting our local communities. As you said, Senator, Lake Tahoe is the ancestral and current home of the Washoe Tribe of Nevada and California. And the lake straddles the states of California and Nevada high in the Sierra Mountains, sitting at more than 6,200 feet of elevation. It's the second deepest lake in the world, in the United States, and one of the clearest large lakes in the world. Nearly 80% of the Tahoe Basin is owned by the federal government and managed by the USDA Forest Service. Our small year-round population of just around 55,000 swells to accommodate 15 million visitors annually, and outdoor recreation and tourism plays a vital role in our $5 billion annual economy. At Tahoe, we have an expression that the environment is the economy and the economy is the environment. The two are intertwined. This sentiment is aligned with the Department of Commerce's National Travel and Tourism Strategy, and I'll highlight how our work supports the national framework. The modern history of Tahoe began in 1960 with the Winter Olympics. The international spotlight led to a building boom. The vision then, which was not fulfilled, was for a population of 750,000 full-time residents, complete with a 4-lane freeway atop the majestic mountain peaks of the Tahoe Basin. To more thoughtfully manage development, California and Nevada came together to create our agency, and with it a shared vision for the long-term protection of our region. This foundation of collaboration laid the groundwork for our latest work on destination stewardship. Over the last 20 years, Tahoe's main tourism driver has evolved from gaming to outdoor recreation. As visitors and residents move from the casino floors to the great outdoors, our region's infrastructure has not kept pace to handle this shift. More recently, the COVID-19 pandemic brought a sharp rise in outdoor visitation, and with it many disturbing impacts, including traffic, litter, illegal campfires, and impacts to quality of life for local residents. While many tourist destinations shut down during the pandemic, millions flocked to Tahoe's abundant public lands to explore the great outdoors. So in response, recreation and tourism partners came together to take swift action to deal with these new pressures, and a long-term vision for sustainable tourism was born. 18 regional organizations launched our first ever destination stewardship plan this year based on input from 3,000 residents, visitors, and businesses. At its core, the plan recognizes that a thriving tourism and recreation-based economy needs to also improve the local quality of life, address community priorities, and support environmental stewardship. The plan contains 32 actions to reduce peak demand impacts, improve infrastructure and enforcement of local rules, while also supporting public access to connect visitors with Tahoe's crystal clear waters and unparalleled mountain vistas. Our plan also aligns with the national strategy. First, under the pillar of ensuring diverse, inclusive, and accessible tourism experiences, our agency recently completed a transportation equity study that identified our most underserved populations and how to better connect people to recreation sites. Second, under fostering resilient and sustainable travel, transportation is a top source of greenhouse gas emissions, and our destination stewardship plan addresses it. Our small rural road network is simply not equipped to handle the 10 million annual vehicles that pass through our region, and we will not be dusting off those ill-conceived freeway plans of the 1960s. So to meaningfully reduce traffic congestion, we are investing in trails, transit, and technology to move visitors to and from recreation sites without the need of a car. We are also marching toward our goal of net zero carbon emissions by 2045. Better managing transportation and visitation also protects Tahoe's famed lake clarity. It's possible to see 70 feet down into our lake, and keeping Tahoe blue is at the core of what our destination stewardship plan is all about. This work is part of our overall Lake Tahoe Environmental Improvement Program, which is supported by federal, state, local, and private funders, creating an average of 1,700 jobs per year. The Lake Tahoe Restoration Act has provided the lion's share of federal support for this program. On behalf of the Tahoe Partnership, the group the late Senator Dianne Feinstein dubbed Team Tahoe, I want to express our gratitude for the federal support to date. However, the 2016 renewal of the Restoration Act is expiring at the end of this year. Chair Rosen, along with other members of Tahoe's delegation, sponsored a 10-year extension bill, and Team Tahoe is calling on Congress to ensure this critical authorization does not lapse. We'll continue to rely on what we call epic collaboration to implement our destination stewardship plan so that we can preserve Lake Tahoe, a place that Mark Twain once famously called the fairest picture the whole earth affords. Thank you for your time, and I will be happy to answer your questions at the appropriate time.
Thank you so much for that great introduction. And now I'd like to introduce Jean Garris-Hand, Global ESG and Head of Sustainability at Hilton. With over 20 years of experience in sustainability, environmental, and social impact programs, Ms. Garris-Hand is a seasoned leader with deep hospitality sector expertise. She leads Travel with Purpose, which is Hilton's global enterprise-wide strategy to drive responsible travel across 7,200 properties operating in 123 countries and territories. This includes global accountability for environmental, social, and governance strategy and delivering on ambitious 2030 goals, including science-based emission intensity targets and water and waste reduction goals, and delivering on social impact programs and targets. Ms. Garris-Hand serves on several association committees, including with Global Business Travel Association, Sustainable Hospitality Alliance, and U.S. Travel. Thank you for being here today and for sharing your insight and your expertise. Ms. Garris-Hand, I now recognize you for your opening remarks.
Thank you. Chair Rosen, Ranking Member Budd, and members of the subcommittee. My name is Jean Garris-Hand, and I'm the Global Head of Sustainability at Hilton. Thank you for the opportunity to address this committee on the vital topic of sustainability in tourism while representing Hilton and the American Hotel and Lodging Association, or AHLA. Hilton is one of the world's leading hospitality companies with over 7,000 hotels in 124 countries and territories, including over 1,600 hotels represented by members on this committee. Over 450,000 team members proudly serve over 200 million guests each year. As an industry, we are seeing guests, team members, and corporate customers are really looking for brands that prioritize sustainability and are doing their part in local communities. Hilton recognizes our responsibility to operate and grow sustainably while delivering strong financial results to our owners, to our shareholders, to our investors, but also while we empower small businesses and offer meaningful careers and we create memorable guest experiences. As you may know, hotel companies rely largely on the franchise business model. At Hilton, approximately 87% of our portfolio are franchises, ranging from large investor groups to small family-owned hotels. Hilton supports all of these business owners who are creating jobs and who are contributing to local economies. Now, as the leading hotel and lodging trade association, AHLA is a leader in protecting the environment while driving economic growth. This is exemplified by their Responsible Stay initiative, which is a program that focuses on 4 areas: on waste reduction, energy efficiency, on water conservation, and on local and sustainable sourcing. Today, I will highlight best practices in each of those areas that advance sustainability while also delivering financial value. Looking at waste reduction, AHLA's Hotel Kitchen program provides hotels with resources to prevent food waste and also to donate leftovers. According to AHLA, this effort has led to a 38% reduction in food waste across the industry. And at Hilton, one guest-facing example is with Digital Key, and that's where guests use their phone to unlock their hotel rooms. And using this Digital Key, we've diverted 183 tons of key card plastic away from landfill since 2020. Another example is at Resorts World Las Vegas, where all food waste is donated to local farms where it's converted to animal feed. Additionally, Hilton has the largest soap recycling program in the hospitality sector, where we've donated over 2.3 million bars of sanitized and repackaged soap to communities in need just last year alone. All of these steps are win-wins for our owners, for our guests, and for our communities. In fact, our supplier spend with valued local partners in the community has exceeded $334 million, and we continue to identify innovative, local, and sustainable sourcing options that foster a diverse supply chain that's very reliant on small businesses while also meeting our guest expectations. Regarding energy efficiency, Hilton has deployed many best practices tracked by a proprietary platform that we use to measure and manage our environmental and social impact across all of our hotels. And one example is with LED lighting. It costs between 2 and 7 times less to operate than traditional lighting. It cuts utility cost, it reduces waste, it enhances design, and it reduces emissions as well. Our turnkey LED lighting program makes bulbs more affordable, and it makes utility incentives more accessible to our owners, which reduces out-of-pocket costs for our owners. And finally, Hilton has achieved a 33% reduction in our water use, and we continue to find opportunities to reduce water in our hotels through many innovative solutions that address water efficiency in our kitchens, in our bathrooms, in our swimming pools, and in our laundry. In conclusion, together with HLA and our industry, we're paving our way to a more sustainable travel future while delivering financial value. But please don't take this from me. We would love to invite you to visit hotels in your state and really extend this invitation so that you can experience firsthand how a hotel operates sustainably, but how we also deliver to the local economy. So thank you so much for this opportunity, and I welcome your questions.
Thank you very much for that. And of course, not so far from my home is the Las Vegas Strip, and we get to be home to some of the most fabulous hotels in the country. And of course, in the center of Nevada, where we have the darkest skies, some of the most unique bed and breakfasts and small, tiny little places for you to curl up and see the Milky Way. So we have it all, but thank you for that. And now I'm going to turn it to Senator Budd to introduce Ms. Allison.
Thank you, Chair Rosen. So pleased to introduce Amy Allison, a native North Carolinian and director of Western North Carolina Made by Mountains. Western North Carolina offers some of the most scenic and iconic natural landscapes in the country and serves as the outdoor industry hub for Eastern U.S. Thanks for being here, Ms. Allison.
Thank you, Subcommittee Chair Rosen and Ranking Member Budd. I'm grateful for the opportunity to be here today and for your leadership on this. My name is Amy Allison. I'm the director of the Made by Mountains Partnership based in Western North Carolina. The Made by Mountains Partnership works to expand the outdoor industry and the greater outdoor economy and to catalyze rural economic development across Western North Carolina's Appalachian region. One of our main areas of focus is activating equitable, outdoor-driven economic and community growth. We work alongside community leaders, economic developers, tourism agencies, business owners, and land managers as they make strategic plans that support their community's economic vitality by leveraging the region's abundant outdoor recreation assets for sustainable growth. In Western North Carolina, our communities are the gateways to the Great Smoky Mountains National Park, with nearly 13 million visitors in 2022, making it the most visited national park in the nation, and the Blue Ridge Parkway, with over 15 million visitors last year. Oftentimes, the gateway communities to these destinations, which welcome millions of visitors annually, are home to fewer than 1,000 or 2,000 permanent residents. These communities rely heavily on the harmonious balance that takes into account the needs of visitors, businesses, and especially the local residents as these numbers continue to grow. The travel and tourism sector has witnessed exponential growth over the years, becoming a driving force of global and local economic development. Yet the industry's rapid expansion has at times come at significant cost to the environment, cultures, and local communities. Over-tourism, environmental degradation, cultural erosion, and economic imbalances are glaring challenges that we must confront. In the face of these challenges, sustainable tourism is not a choice, but it's an imperative. We must be persistent in the pursuit of sustainable travel and tourism practices that seamlessly integrate the protection of our natural resources, the support of our tourism economy, and that ensure sound development goals. Sustainable tourism is a lifeline for many of our communities, particularly in remote or economically disadvantaged areas. The income generated from responsible travel can be a significant driver of economic vitality. It creates job opportunities, it supports local businesses, and provides a stable source of income for communities. Money spent by tourists often circulates directly within the community, benefiting businesses, families, and individuals. Building a sustainable tourism sector doesn't mean stifling economic growth, but rather channeling it in a way that benefits all stakeholders. In many of our communities in Western North Carolina, tourism is a red carpet for economic development, paving the way for growth and prosperity. We've watched boarded-up towns transformed by enhancing and expanding outdoor recreation opportunities, nurturing an environment that fosters entrepreneurship, especially in the outdoor manufacturing sector. These dynamic factors create economically diverse outdoor communities where the beauty of nature inspires innovation and opportunity. As visitors are drawn to explore the natural wonders and cultural heritage of our region, they not only fuel the local economy, but also stimulate the growth of outdoor businesses and the production of goods designed for outdoor enthusiasts. These relationships can transform our once sleepy towns into thriving hubs of outdoor commerce, ensuring economic stability and a unique sense of place that sets our communities apart. Building a sustainable travel and tourism sector is a complex endeavor, but it's essential. It requires a collective commitment from our government, our businesses, travelers, and local communities. By protecting the environment, supporting the local community, and embracing strategic economic development, we can create a brighter and more sustainable future for the travel and tourism sector. My hope is that we can all here, as we've heard today, continue to be champions of sustainability in our respective roles as travelers, business owners, policymakers, community leaders. Together, we can make a difference and ensure that the beauty of our planet, the richness of our cultures, and the prosperity of our communities endures for generations to come. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I couldn't agree more. And so with that, we're going to go into some of our questions, and I guess I will begin. And so, of course, we need a national strategy, and that comes from Commerce. Tourism falls under our Commerce Department. And so we do have to collaborate with them. And the Department of Commerce's 2022 National Travel and Tourism Strategy, it discusses collaborating with the outdoor recreation industry and leveraging geotourism, supporting both tourism and sustainability, as you all have been talking about. Outdoor tourism is a major part of Nevada's economy, particularly in our rural communities and in the northern part of our state. For example, the 15 million annual visitors to Lake Tahoe have long been the driving force of the region's $5.1 billion economy. However, like you've stated, in recent years, Lake Tahoe has faced challenges of pollution, traffic, a shortage of affordable housing for its tourism workforce. It's really important. And the Tahoe Regional Planning Agency, in collaboration with other organizations, published a plan to address these issues that will focus on local communities, equip our local agencies to be effective stewards of the land, and welcome the millions of visitors who arrive to experience the beautiful public lands in the basin. So, Ms. Reagan, how is the Department of Commerce collaborating with organizations like yours, the Tahoe Regional Planning Agency, to promote healthy, sustainable outdoor tourism that invests in our local economies, in our job force? It attracts an increased number of visitors while really remaining good stewards of the environment, because at the end of the day, that's why people are coming there. So we want to keep it pristine and beautiful.
Thank you, Chair Rosen and Ranking Member Budd. Really appreciate this opportunity to talk about your leadership with this committee and developing a national strategy. Step one has been done, and we appreciate that because it allows all of us to work together to collaborate on these very challenging solutions. Under the Department of Commerce, organizations in our Tahoe region have received funding through the Economic Development Agency, and we appreciate that because our economy is very dependent on extreme weather events, wildfires, smoke. Any closure of our tourist economy really has a huge impact on our local communities. So these strategies are helping us build more resilience and diversify our economy, and to recognize, exactly as you pointed out, that we must harmonize economic development and our natural environment and our local communities' quality of life. So we appreciate the work of the Economic Development Agency. We'd like to work more together on grant funding opportunities. We also have appreciated the work of NOAA in the Tahoe Basin in looking at scientific research and monitoring, looking at weather patterns, how we can better predict these resiliency opportunities for the basin, and we'd love more engagement with NOAA. At the heart of our plan, it's called Take Care Tahoe. Taking care of the lake also takes care of our environment and our communities, and education is a major part of that. So grant funding opportunities through the Department of Commerce are really key for us to educate our visitors. What we experienced during the COVID pandemic, when people may have had no opportunity to go to amusement parks, Disneyland, Six Flags. They came to the great outdoors without the knowledge of leave no trace, pack it in, pack it out, because they're used to going to more developed areas. So education is a huge challenge for us, and we really would appreciate more engagement with Commerce to have grant opportunities to spread the word to take care of Tahoe.
Thank you. I would argue spreading that word about taking care also helps us there. I'm going to ask Ms. Allison a quick question, too. We'll turn it over then to Senator Budd. Ms. Allison, as a leader in outdoor recreation for your state, has the Department of Commerce worked with you in any way to support your tourism sustainability? And if yes, how so? And if not, what actions could the department take to better lay the groundwork for promoting sustainable outdoor tourism and keeping your beautiful state wonderful place for people to visit?
Thank you for the question. I think there's a great opportunity for supporting with investment for trails and direct access from our downtowns, from main streets to our trail network. So I think that's a real opportunity for investment and grants. And I think there's also the chance for Commerce to work with our state tourism agencies. I know in North Carolina, we're working closely with Visit NC, who's created an Outdoor NC program, which is a statewide sustainable outreach program, so that visitors and residents alike are going to see the same messaging from the mountains to the coast. Where, wherever they're visiting, they're going to see these leave no trace principles and know kind of best practices when they're out on the trail. So I think those are a couple of opportunities.
Thank you. Continue with you, Ms. Allison. So I think it was out on the Appalachian Trail or Blue Ridge Parkway last week that I may have lost my voice. So what do you think are some of the key steps and strategies that should be implemented to enhance sustainable tourism practices in Western North Carolina's more rural communities?
Thank you. I think the work we're doing to bring community leaders, tourism agencies, economic developers all together to the table to have the real conversation so that we can figure out the right path forward. And that's kind of that low-hanging fruit, right? Is just getting everybody in the same room and getting out of our silos as we're having conversations as to how to move our communities forward in a way that's economically viable. So I think that, that's kind of a first step. And then also going back again to investment, what we're hearing over and over again is kind of, wayfinding and trails that really connect folks from our trails to our main streets. And also opportunities to support entrepreneurship as well. So a lot of times in the outdoor recreation industry, we find that our businesses are smaller. They're not going to be, manufacturers with 500 jobs or even 100 jobs. So how do we work together to support our small businesses and our small entrepreneurs to help them to grow? Because I feel like that's really what creates the culture in our communities that draws in visitors and tourism.
Very good. So in your testimony, you spoke about how tourism can help diversify a community's source of income, especially during economic downturns. So can you elaborate a little bit more on that? And I'd like to hear how that sort of diversification in North Carolina helped our communities, especially during the COVID pandemic.
Absolutely. During COVID, I think we all saw a great increase in visitors and travel, and especially in our rural communities. I think we can, again, going back to supporting, when we talk about diversifying our economy by building trails and creating these networks, we can then host guides and outfitters and restaurants and breweries and the outdoor manufacturers that then build the gear for the tourists. So that's what we're talking about, with that diversification. And also making sure, when we talk about diversity on another level, is that we're making sure that everyone feels welcome in our communities. And that's going to drive more tourism and bring more dollars in, but making sure that our communities are welcome to diverse populations no matter where they're coming from. So that will also help to diversify our economies.
That's great. Can you provide examples of communities and businesses that have effectively turned their natural assets, especially like we have in Western North Carolina, into thriving economic industries? And what can we learn from that for other countries or other states around the nation?
Sure. I think maybe this will answer the question. If not, you can re-ask it for me. But, I was in a small community in Western North Carolina last week, and we were talking to a business owner there, and he was looking for an opportunity for expansion. And he said he traveled all over the country looking for the next best place for his manufacturing business, for, a second hub. And he ended up coming right back to Western North Carolina, and there was a greenway that was being built, and there was a great location right there on the greenway. So he knew that his employees could bike to work, they could go for a walk for their lunch break, they could get out by the river, and that's what was really important for him as a business owner. So I think those are the opportunities we're looking to provide, is how do we build communities that are real outdoor recreation communities that keep the residents there, that attract visitors, but are also hubs for outdoor recreation and for the outdoor recreation businesses and manufacturers as well.
That's great, thank you. Ms. Garris-Hand, can you talk a little bit about how the franchise model for hospitality is able to better serve small communities? I mean, usually we see it in larger communities, but talk about some engagement with some of the smaller communities and how that can help support outdoor recreation. And a microphone.
Absolutely. It's like COVID times with the camera on and mute and yeah, so a little flashback there. No, absolutely. While we're a global company, we really operate as a network of, fostering that entrepreneurial spirit, as I mentioned, with 87% of our portfolio being comprised of franchises. And in that spirit, we equip our franchisees, our individual business owners, with the tools and resources to be successful. From a sustainability perspective, for example, we have a global platform called Lightstay that I mentioned that equips small businesses with the ability to track and report and manage their energy, their water, their waste, their social impact. And we give them the tools, activation guides. If they are interested in improving their energy efficiency, we have an activation guide with very specific tools and resources. And we equip them with programs that allow them to leverage our collective global scale when we work with our manufacturers and our business partners to reduce costs for them. So if they were going if they were engaging in a LED lighting project, for example, individually versus working through our programs, we're able to make their dollars go much farther, faster. From a revenue generation perspective, we are seeing in our recent trends report that travelers as a whole are really looking for cultural experiences, that unique small town experience, that outdoor experience nearby, and we're really building our partnerships with outdoor companies through our marketing team's efforts, as well as equipping our small businesses with tools and resources to host guests in a more sustainable way, so that it's the customer's choice what they wish to engage in. But we have checklists that provide how they may source food locally and enjoy that local dining experience, how they may gather, gathering, nourishing, and then also impacting the community. We give our businesses tools so that if a group is coming in and they wish to have a volunteer activity in the local community, we're equipping our hotels with those resources as well. So a lot of different support for our franchisees to give them the tools and resources so that there's no duplication of effort, but they have that choice and that support from us to them.
Thank you. I'm glad you mentioned food because that's a big part of tourism. I like to go around the country and try all the great foods everywhere, so I'm all in on all the restaurant suggestions when I go travel. So there you go there. But I see that Senator Welch from the great state of Vermont is here, and so we're going to turn it over to you for your questions.
Well, thank you. And by the way, I really appreciate you and Senator Budd holding this hearing. We all like to brag about how we're the best, but in my case, it's really true. Vermont's the greatest. Well, you're a tough act to follow on that, I must say. But it's really delightful. We're so proud in Vermont, you know, of the natural beauty that we have, and it's an incredibly important part of our economy as well. And one of the things, and I bet, Senator Rosen, this is true for you, we have these folks in Vermont who play a big part in agritourism, bed and breakfast. They have such a strong sense of place and such a love for where they live. All of their efforts are about enhancing it. And it really benefits those of us who live in the state because of those folks who are involved in tourism really make our states more beautiful. And that's why I think it's so important to focus on the policies at the federal level that we can do that help all of us back home in Nevada, North Carolina, and in Vermont. So I'll ask Ms. Reagan, Vermont we get millions of visitors, and how can the federal government better support small towns? We have a lot of very small towns with really energetic people, limited resources, and they can use some technical know-how. And they're committed to doing the work. But how can, and I think that's true all around the country with some of these beautiful places, because people go there in part because it is small and it is rural. So how can the federal government better support the small towns that want to welcome outdoor rec visitors sustainably?
Senator, thank you for the question. Julie Reagan, Tahoe Regional Planning Agency. Well, we share the small town challenge with Vermont and many other places in the country. In Tahoe, we like to say we're a small rural community on the weekdays and a big city on the weekends because people flock to our basin in the weekend time frame, and we're a very big drive-up market. So truly, I think the recognition of this committee and those in our agencies and the administration to recognize that it is not a one-size-fits-all. Oftentimes, federal policy suits an urban framework, and small towns are different, and our needs are different, and particularly in the area of transportation. We don't compete in the Tahoe Basin as well for the big infrastructure grants, and infrastructure has really evolved into a major challenge for Lake Tahoe. We have a small year-round population, as Senator Rosen noted, but millions and millions of visitors that we serve. And so I think looking at a new model for the future that builds the opportunity for more infrastructure investments, particularly in transportation and technology. We often don't have good internet service in high mountain elevations, and you need proper infrastructure and investment in technology to service cell phone information and app-based travel demand. So those are a couple examples,
That's
Senator.
good. Thank you. I don't have that much time, so I appreciate that answer. And Ms. Allison, I just want to ask you about stewardship. You know, agritourism, any time we get out and hike, what I find is that people become very invested in the natural world and doing everything they can to preserve it. And I think it can be something that will help us address some of the issues of climate change, where folks really see that what is happening with weather is really affecting the natural world. Can you tell us what your organization's experience with is with environmental stewardship and growing that?
Absolutely. Thank you for the question. I think the stewardship piece is really important, and oftentimes it's just education, a little bit more education that's needed. I think as folks are visiting communities, they often don't have all the information about the culture there and how to take care of the place. And so I mentioned earlier, Visit NC has a program called Outdoor NC, which is a statewide stewardship program. So it's really just an education messaging initiative where folks are going to see kind of these leave no trace principles no matter where they go. And not only are they working with communities, but they're working with business leaders. So whether you go into one of our great restaurants or breweries, you know, the hope is that you'll see the messaging there, the same as if you're in a retailer, and then also they're going to start a program where they're working with all of our guides and outfitters to, again, just have that same repeat messaging so that our visitors and residents are hearing it over and over, so we're taking care of our places.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
My time is up. I yield back.
Thank you, Senator Welch. And now I see from the great state of West Virginia, Senator Moore Capito.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank the witnesses. I am from the great state of West Virginia, share some commonality with my friend over there from Vermont, being from a more rural state. That was the impacts of tourism in our state are really growing, and it's been about $7 billion in annual impact. But we are very rural and wide open spaces. COVID hurt a lot of people, but COVID actually kind of helped us because certainly from this more congested area, a lot of people came out to West Virginia and realized what we already knew, what a great state it is. So, but is there any concern, Ms. Allison, that any of these efforts to be labeled as sustainable could hurt some of the rural areas because they don't have capacity? I'll use EV chargers as an example. You know, obviously that's a big push with this administration. But in our more rural areas, our more tourist areas, the cost of an EV charger or the availability of one could really, I think, be a detriment to some of those who are looking to recreate in those areas. Do you have any opinions on that?
Yes, thank you for the question. I think it's a real opportunity, and yes, it will come with challenges, but, you know, as was mentioned by Ms. Reagan, I think, you know, grants and funding for infrastructure and for broadband, it's going to take some support from both the federal and the state level. But I think if we do it well and work together, it can be a real opportunity as opposed to a challenge.
Did anybody else want to speak to that? Yes. Ms. Garrett.
Thank you for that question. I think one thing that may be interesting is that on the Hilton website, we have a variety of different features that hotel guests can select to help them pick out a hotel that they're looking for. And last year, we added EV charging stations to the lineup of options, and it became the second highest turnover element or option on our website. What that means is that when guests are looking for that feature, it turns into an actual booking. And so that gave us a lot of visibility about, that kind of reinforced a lot of the trends that we were seeing, that guests are really looking for this. And then just given the predictions on sales of EV charging stations, it's an opportunity we've found to be a differentiator. So it's been beneficial to our business to expand our EV charging network to over 1,800 hotels to date.
So if you take that statistic and what you've found on your website and then reverse challenge it to the more rural areas who may not have availability of that, they may be missing out on a whole a crew of potential tourists if you can't offer that. Some of these places to recreate are in mountainous regions. It eats up the charge a lot faster. They're cold. It eats up the charge a lot faster. So I guess what I'm seeking here is the even playing field concept that rural America really needs. Let me ask you this, Ms. Garrett's hand, on the inflation that we're seeing and the high cost of anything. What kind of impacts or everything are you seeing in terms of your business at Hilton?
My area at Hilton is in sustainability. From a sustainability perspective, investments, what we aim to do is make any investment in sustainability compete just like any other investment or reinvestment in a hotel. We leverage our collective scale to help our small business owners because 87% of our portfolio is comprised of franchisees. So we aim to leverage our collective scale to help make projects more affordable for our owners. LED lighting is one example of that, where we can leverage our scale to make out-of-pocket costs lower for our owners. The availability of tax incentives for building for efficiency projects would be very beneficial, and also to the EV charging stations, as you mentioned, to make it a level playing field. But our intention is, yes, there are rising costs, and efficiency and sustainability investments need to be weighed. And from an owner's view, they're looking at those investments just like any other investment, whether it's a renovation, et cetera. So we seek win-wins for our owners time and time again.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah.
Oh, thank you, Senator Julie Reagan, Tahoe Regional Planning Agency. I would just add to my colleagues here that it's something the whole nation has struggled with, and in Tahoe, our environmental improvement program is investing millions in restoration projects, and what we've found is just leaning on the power of collaboration to work with the 80 different partners in our basin that are doing capital investment projects, anywhere from trails and water quality restoration projects, to make sure that we prioritize the very highest priority projects that are receiving federal and private funding, to make sure that we pace ourselves and phase them appropriately, because some of them have to, wait longer. We can't get contractors to bid on certain projects just because of the challenges with workforce, and having a very able supply of workforce is a huge challenge in our tourism-based economies, just as one example. So it is a challenge, but we're leaning in on our collaborative approach to manage through that. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I spent one summer in Lake Tahoe when I was in college working. It is a beautiful place.
Thank you so
thank
much.
you.
Thank you. We have a few other senators coming. One's coming online, one's coming in person. So I'm just going to kind of build on that while we wait for them to log on or get to the room, and talking about leveling the playing field really for our bigger areas and our smaller rural areas. Because I know Lake Tahoe Visitors Authority, you've been promoting not just Lake Tahoe, but promoting some of our lesser known destinations around the lake, some of our other smaller communities. And so like Senator Welch and Senator Capito said, what can Congress do to assist the increased tourism to rural and the less traveled areas? It's really important. What are the common barriers and maybe even international tourism? And if you could answer that, then we'll turn it over to Senator Hickenlooper.
Well, thank you, Senator Julie Reagan, Tahoe Regional Planning Agency. Yes, as you stated, during COVID, we had such a huge drive-up market. Our Lake Tahoe Visitors Authority stopped marketing to the San Francisco Bay Area because we were over capacity in certain areas. Emerald Bay is an iconic national treasure in itself within Lake Tahoe, and the Visitors Authority no longer markets that because we have too many people at one time. So we're really looking to have a mindset shift, and it's happening across the country, from marketing organizations to management organizations. Traditional Visitors Authorities, convention and visitors bureaus are really seeing their role as also managing demand and doing a better job of dispersing travelers, as you mentioned. So technology is a very big part of that. For example, if we can let visitors know parking lots are full and they don't have to go through a windy mountain road to get there only to find out they have nowhere to park, if we could inform them in advance through technology, through signage, and have shuttles. We are very challenged in the area of shuttles around the entire lake. It's 72 miles around our giant lake, and you cannot get on a shuttle from one end to the next, from the north to the south shore currently seamlessly without a car, and that is a big challenge for us. So having trails that connect our areas so people have options to not be in their car, transit and technology are very key to dispersing travelers, and education. We like to say it's the 3 E's: education, infrastructure, engineering, and enforcement, and also ticketing cars when they're parking up the side of the mountain and creating a safety issue. So the 3 E's, and trails, transit, and technology.
Well, there's more responses to that question, but Senator Hickenlooper, I'm going to turn it over to you. And as I say to everyone from the great state of Colorado.
Thank you so much, and thank all three of you for taking the time out. I know how busy you all are to spend some time with us on this. And I am, I was in the hospitality business. I served many years on the, back then it was the tourism board. Now they call it Visit Denver, but it's for the whole region. So I understand what you're all about and appreciate the ideas and contributions you bring. I've been really obsessed now for a while on outdoor recreation. Not only does it get people outside and make them healthier and feel better about the world and themselves, but it also creates small business, all kinds of small business opportunities in rural parts of our states. And, really does allow, I think, our country to unify in a funny, powerful way. So I've got a couple questions on that. We've been working with, there's a couple of musicians. There's a woman named Molly Tuttle, who's like the best flat-picking guitarist, and a guy named Ketch Secor. They live in Nashville, but they've written a song together called Big Backyard, which is worth listening to. But I think it's going to be the anthem of outdoor recreation at some point. And they have agreed to that they will license it, as we should need it to be licensed. Anyway, Ms. Allison, back when I was governor, we helped open the Office of Outdoor Recreation in North Carolina. I know you guys have really done a great job and embraced it. Through your work with the North Carolina Outdoor Recreation Industry Office, you obviously know what I'm talking about. Can you describe, from your viewpoint and with your experience, what sets the recreation sector apart from the rest of the state's tourism industry, and looking at the workforce and stewardship opportunities that it provides?
Absolutely. Thanks for the question, and thanks for your leadership in this role. I know you work closely with the outdoor director in the state of Colorado and have done a lot of work in this area, so thank you. And prior to my role that I currently hold with the Made by Mountains Partnership, I was the North Carolina Outdoor Recreation State Director, so excited to share more about that. But I think what really makes our industry, sets us apart, is our collaboration, and we talk a lot about that when we're working together. We started a trade organization in Western North Carolina in 2013 called the Outdoor Gear Builders, and I was working for an outdoor manufacturer there at the time and realized that, we were a large outdoor manufacturer, hammocks, and so, and we had some others in the region, but we realized we weren't really talking yet, and we didn't really know one another, so we started getting together and amplifying our voice as an outdoor recreation industry and letting our economic developers know what we were doing and letting our economic developers know the needs of our industry to grow. And so from there, we were able to, it didn't matter if there were 2 tent makers in the room or 2 chair builders in the room, everybody put their ego aside and worked together to really grow the greater outdoor economy. So I think that's something that really sets us apart. And the flip side of that is our entrepreneurship programs that we have, where we're bringing small businesses in the room together and talking to them about opportunities for them to grow, whether it's through marketing, through legal services, whatever they need. And again, just those shared conversations around the table. And we're seeing that with our industry, whether it's a small gear manufacturer, let's say somebody who makes bags for a bicycle, all the way to our boat builders out on the coast, and kind of bringing everyone to the table. So again, I think that camaraderie and collaborative spirit is what really makes our outdoor recreation industry special.
You're exactly right, although I could never have said it as eloquently as you did, so appreciate that perspective. Miss Allison, or Ms. Hand, I'm sorry, when you've done so much work with sustainability, because I think outdoor recreation has, in its nature, has to be sustainable, and yet I think there are some places, and I thought maybe you could just opine on risks or hazards that you see that might be down the trail, as it were, where outdoor recreation ends up not making us more sustainable, but actually makes us less sustainable.
Senator, thank you. Certainly, As a hotel organization, part of our commitment, not just in the immediate surrounds, but in our communities and then in the global environment, is to set really ambitious emissions intensity reduction targets, which we've done through science-based targets using a data-driven approach. And so it's, what we can do to set high ambition and be leaders in this space, and also work in collaboration with AHLA, our competitors, on, this is an area where if we win for the environment, we win, much more broadly. So our collaboration is really key to ensure that our parks and our trails and the outdoor environment is preserved for generations to come.
I love it. You guys you've been rehearsing together, I can tell, somehow, planning. If I can just steal one more question for Ms. Reagan, if that's all right, Madam Chair. I'm out of time, so I don't want to get myself in trouble. And I think this is all kind of related, but when we look at what I think of as reasonable, responsible development and how important that is, I think that's what Ms. Ham was referring to. How do you speak about the need for that sense of responsible development to make sure that outdoor recreation can continue to expand and grow?
Thank you, Senator. Julie Reagan, again, Tahoe Regional Planning Agency. Appreciate that question. The Interstate Compact between Nevada and California basically gave us a framework to manage land use and connect limited development into the future of the lake. So we have a regional plan where we set actual caps on growth and development, and then we have a very rigorous community-based planning process where we look at what is the best place for development that connects to trails, that connects to in-town centers, that connects to transportation options, so that we don't continue land use patterns that are up in the neighborhoods disconnected from services and amenities. And unfortunately, we have a land use pattern because of the Olympics in 1960 that is very auto-dominated and auto-dependent. The very statute that enabled the Tahoe Regional Planning Agency puts a policy mandate to reduce dependency on the private automobile. And this is a huge challenge because, some people love their cars more than their significant others. So it is a big challenge. There's data on that. So we really have to make it frequent and fun and fast and efficient for people to take microtransit. We have new services where we're actually we have a new event center in the state line area of Nevada. Senator Rosen has been there. We actually have a $4 surcharge on all tickets to support micro mass transit. So think of Uber, but in a minivan. And it's on demand, it's free, and that attraction is generating money to pay for the mass transit. And it is not just a fixed line bus service, it would augment that service, but it goes right to your door. And so this is a new pilot that we're working in. The private sector is contributing to that. But where we place development has a very huge impact on our natural resources. And we have a very important environmental standards process in Tahoe that we follow. And our community supports that. And our visitors support that because those who visit Lake Tahoe want to be a part of the solution to protect the lake.
Yeah, absolutely. Terrific. Thank you, all three. Thank you, Madam Chair. I yield back.
Thank you. And Senator Budd, you have a few more questions, please.
Ms. Allison, so, Americans still continue to struggle under inflation. They have increased energy costs. Many debate whether we're headed towards a recession or not. But then we see the Biden administration, we see an aggressive push to implement and mandate ESG policies. So what are some of the ramifications that small communities may face from increased regulation? Small communities, what challenges do increased regulations?
Yeah, I think, we talked a little bit about this before. I think there can be an imbalance with some of our small communities and our more urban areas. And I think that's going to take, as I said earlier, support at the federal level and support at the state level, whether that's through grant funding. We talked a lot about transportation and, grants that will help get folks in and out of our communities more easily. And I don't know if that best answered your question, but I think, again, a lot of our funding comes from the Appalachian Regional Commission, which is federally funded. So, any opportunities like that can do that outreach in our smallest communities and help build capacity is going to help.
Thank you. Ms. Garrison, I know that's kind of your specialty at Hilton, but what challenges do you see when you think about smaller communities and the Biden administration policies?
Make sure you put your microphone on.
Thank you for that question. Many of the policies that are being implemented around ESG disclosure, we're tracking very carefully. We're monitoring. Our government affairs team, our corporate affairs, which is comprised of communications, government affairs, ESG, and our Hilton Global Foundation. We're working together to track and monitor very carefully. All of our properties around the world, in small communities and in big cities, are all required to comply with all laws and regulations. For some of the broader regulation or disclosure policies, it's our corporate entity that is responsible for the responses in terms of disclosing our corporate progress toward emissions and disclosing transparently our emissions and our reduction targets, et cetera. And each year, we've disclosed in our ESG annual report our total emissions, our energy, our water, our waste, our social impact, and our progress in those areas. To the extent that we can, we're providing the tools and resources, again, to help reduce costs and make those improvements.
Thank you. Ms. Reagan, any thoughts there?
Yes, thank you, Senator, for the question. Julie Reagan, Tahoe Regional Planning Agency. I would say capacity building is really important for rural communities. As I mentioned, not every community is the same, has, in terms of capacity, they're not all treated equally. Big urban areas have more capacity to write grants to receive technical assistance. And I would say working through your leadership and Senator Rosen and the Department of Commerce, if we could structure grants that really focused on capacity building for small rural areas, that would help us compete better and to keep up with changing, ever-evolving regulations. In Tahoe, we have a lot of regulations. I like to say we have rules for a good reason to protect the lake. But what we've seen is that sometimes we don't have the capacity, to respond. One thing we've done that we could actually offer up as a model is something called cutting the green tape. We have a lot of environmental regulations in California and Nevada and in Lake Tahoe, and even working within our restoration programs, whether we're working with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers or U.S. Fish and Wildlife, different agencies, cutting the green tape through sitting down with each other and collaborating on better processes to get projects on the ground faster. In the era of climate change, we need to advance the pace and scale of the work we're doing. And so we have a model called cutting the green tape that we could offer up to this community at a later time. Thank you.
Ms. Allison, talking about communities in Western North Carolina, how have they benefited from the creation of this outdoor infrastructure network, particularly through the lenses of entrepreneurship, business expansion, and recruiting new businesses and talent to the area?
Absolutely. Thank you for the question. I think, helping our community see that there is opportunity to diversify, and they don't have to, just rely on, having a job with the Forest Service, which is great. But, a lot of our communities, that's one of the main employers, and that's fantastic. But we have to help our communities realize that they can diversify their economic base as well. So by bringing in trails, as I mentioned earlier, that's going to lead to outfitters and guides and local retailers, which then, people spark ideas and then they become entrepreneurs and want to build gear that supports really their passion for getting in the outdoors. That's what we see a lot. So I think, by building this network and creating avenues for communication and conversation, we're helping our communities kind of, look up out of their silo and recognize that there's greater opportunities to help their communities grow.
Well, thank you. And next, from the great state of Minnesota, Senator Klobuchar.
Much, Senator Rosen, and thank you for all the good work that's going on here. Just start with you, Ms. Allison, on the recreational trails program. I know you mentioned it, and improving recreational trails. When you look at activities that are sort of mesh in with where our environment. That includes everything from hiking, cycling, ATV, snowmobiles. And we've been able to, for years, I've led a lot of this work on the recreational trails. Could you talk about how improving these trails, always keeping them updated, expanding, is good for tourism, attracting new business, property values?
Yes, thank you for the question. In Western North Carolina, we have such a diversity of outdoor recreation opportunities. Many of those that you just mentioned, there's, fly fishing and biking and hiking and climbing and, and I feel like new sports are being introduced all the time as well. So I think through that, again,
Curling, don't forget curling, Miss
Oh,
Allison.
yeah.
We're the Olympic curling team from Minnesota.
I can't believe I forgot that one.
Not to one up you.
Yeah, but with that, we're continuing to bring in tourists from, all over the country and all over the world, really. And with that, it's not only the guides and outfitters and the hotels that that grow our economic base through tourism, but we say beer and gear goes hand in hand. So we've got, a lot of breweries that pop up in our communities, the outdoor gear manufacturers. So I think, again, all of these different sports, and then the communities themselves amplifying that message and the marketing about what's there and what we can offer, that's going to continue to grow our community. Right. So anything that we can do to support more trails, and again, as I mentioned way early on, that connecting our trails to our main streets and supports our businesses.
All good. I would also note, we're going to have the U.S. Olympic finals on gymnastics, home of Suni Lee. In Minnesota, we've got the cross-country ski championships coming up. And I think all those kind of national events also shouldn't be neglected as you look at tourism. I'm going to shift gears here to sustainable aviation fuel, to Ms. Hand. We know that reducing the travel and tourism sector's contributions to climate change and fostering resilience is important. Decarbonizing commercial flight is one of the greatest challenges that the aviation industry has ever faced. We've got a lot going on in Minnesota with our Delta and Sun Country and other airlines on this front. And do you agree that renewable fuels, Ms. Hand, are a key pathway with aviation, while also driving economic growth and creating jobs as we look at reducing greenhouse gases?
Well, thank you so much, Senator, for that question. And thank you also for your support of the hotel industry and the Hotel Resort Fees Transparencies Act. We also, in addition to that question, we look forward, and we're very thankful for the establishment of the Assistant Secretary of Travel and Tourism, and look forward to working together once that is funded. It's important to note that hotels are just one element of the whole of travel. And as you pointed out, aviation is critically important to travel and tourism as well. And so having tax credits available for sustainable aviation fuel will help reduce emissions produced by travel, because more than 50% of travel and transportation related emissions come from airlines and travel. So moving forward, we welcome the opportunity to have more dialogue around this topic, and really appreciate your support.
Okay, very good. And I'll follow up on the first thing you mentioned. My bill with Senator Moran, the Hotel Fees Transparency Act, to require anyone advertising a hotel room or a short-term rental to clearly show the true cost of a booking upfront, so travelers can make informed decisions. Could you just elaborate on that quickly, why that's so important for consumers who are, of course, wanting to know true value and wanting to not have added costs? Could you answer that? Thank you.
Yeah, it's critically important that when consumers are that consumers can make informed choices, and that the same cost is appearing in the variety of different places where they may be looking. And so we appreciate your support of that act. Thank you.
Very good. And I'd also note the Brand USA and the work that Senator Rosen has done as well, and the work that Senator Blunt and I did on that bill has also been very important. And I'll ask on the record so my colleagues can go ahead, a question of you, Ms. Allison, about how important it is, even with things like Brand USA that just, we used to just have, okay, Senator Rosen was lucky,
Nope,
Vegas
go
got to
ahead, and she can
advertise.
answer the question. Go ahead.
Okay, that Vegas had the funding and was able to conglomerate all of their private interest and was able to advertise around the country, as are places around the world, as are places like New York. The virtue of Brand USA, which has helped not just big cities, but small as well, has allowed us to kind of micro-target advertising to foreign travelers who spend an average of $4,000 when they come to the U.S. So we can, advertise places like Duluth, Minnesota, and its walkways, or our incredible Split Rock Lighthouse, or we can advertise bike trails down in Lanesboro on the Iowa border and their incredible community theater down there. Could you just talk quickly about how travel promotion can help travelers discover rural areas and engage in some of those outdoor activities that we talked about earlier as well?
Yes, thank you. I think, this is something we talk about with our communities a lot, is the opportunity for them to market what they have locally, and it goes back to that capacity question. And so I think anytime that there's someone outside of the community telling others about, what we have within and what our rural communities have to offer, that's going to definitely be a boon for our economy in those communities. But it's something we hear over and over, is that our small communities need support in marketing and sharing with the outside world why they should come and why they should come visit.
Right, very good. And as I'm sure that Senator Rosen would add, visit Lake Tahoe as well. So thank you, Chair Rosen.
Thank you. I say visit everywhere. Every single state has someplace great and wonderful, and we all like to brag about our own. But I'm going to ask one final question to all three of you. And actually, the last few questions have really teed this up for me. And so, if the Department of Commerce, we have the National Travel and Tourism Office. I sit on the Small Business and Entrepreneurship Committee, of course. And so if a cooperation between the two, if they were able to publish tools for the tourism business to use for their sustainability, for their marketing, do you think it would be a helpful resource for your businesses, whether you're larger like the Hilton Corporation, or small rural business, or any place in between? And so if you want to give us some suggestions how maybe the SBA, what I really hear coming out of this, maybe the SBA really has a big role. Of course, they do have a big role to play in tourism, and how can we work with them to build up this capacity? So I'm going to give all three of you the chance to kind of answer on what we can do to help with SBA and tools, online tools for you all to share and use everywhere. Go ahead, Ms. Reagan, we'll start with you.
Thank you, Chair Rosen. Again, Julie Reagan. Yes, I think they have an incredible role to play. As a small community, we need more technical assistance. We need more capacity building to compete, and also just a general mindset shift. I think a theme that we've heard from this panel is that particularly in small, very beautiful places, more may not necessarily be better, and we need to better manage the impacts that we have and get more profitability for our businesses. We've done some economic modeling as part of our destination stewardship plan that really looks at economic scenarios of, many more travelers, fewer travelers, or a balance. And that's what we're seeking, travelers that want to be in the great outdoors and that appreciate the ethos of stewardship. And so resources through Commerce and SBA, I think, would help us be more sophisticated in reaching the right traveler, because we have an offering that really suits everyone with the great outdoors, but we also really want folks who can respect the great outdoors as part of that. So I do think there's a role to play to assist destinations like ours. And thank you.
Thank you for that question. Absolutely. And I think it's important to note that there's no need to recreate the wheel, and you have partners that would be very happy to work together to share. One of the things that's been very helpful as we deploy resources to our hotels is the availability of case studies that fit a lot of different places, that not only describe what was done and the impact, but also available tax incentives and utility incentives that are available to help accelerate the payback But not just investments, but also no-cost and low-cost training that's available, because the best savings comes from, not spending anything to begin with. And there's plenty of, tips and tricks that are available. And so ranging from the environmental side to the social impact side, and really one of the wonderful things about hospitality is just being a pillar in a community and creating an engine of opportunity. And so from a tools and resources perspective, there are a lot of opportunities, and properties tend to really appreciate that. And I would suggest as well to take those tools and test them in different locations, because you can really get a feeling for how they can come to life, some of the challenges, some of the opportunities. But again, you don't have to do them alone. We'd be very happy to share and work together on that.
And I think I'd just echo a lot of what's already been said, and I think resources would be hugely beneficial. With simple messaging, it doesn't have to be super elaborate, and again, there's great partners who've already done a lot of the work. There's the Leave No Trace Center for Outdoor Ethics that can be reached out to, but I think a toolkit, and we've talked a lot about capacity. If it's difficult, it won't be used, so something that's a little bit more plug and play, and then as our communities become more familiar with it, they can take kind of the cookie cutter out of it and make it really stand for their region a little bit better. And I think unified messaging as well. I've talked about Outdoor NC and how folks are seeing the same messaging, whether they're in our mountains or in the coast of North Carolina. But if they were seeing the same messaging in Western North Carolina that they're seeing in Tahoe and everywhere else, that's the need, and it's that education piece that we talked about early on.
Thank you. That's fantastic. Really, I could have you here all day. There's so many questions. Our infrastructure, our broadband, getting broadband out to every single niche of this country, critical for tourism. Of course, our weather, our workforce capacity, and I would even say cybersecurity to protect our small businesses from any ransomware or theft or any of those things. So there's a lot to this national strategy for tourism, and hopefully we'll see someone nominated to that position soon. And I really look forward to working with all of you on just promoting tourism in every great way all across our country. And so I appreciate you coming here, for participating in today's hearing. And the hearing record will remain open for 2 weeks until Tuesday, November 21st, 2023. Any senators that would like to submit questions for the record should do so by November 21, 2023. For those of you who testified today, we ask that your responses be returned to the committee as quickly as possible, and in no case later than 2 weeks after receipt. I know I'm going to be submitting the rest of my questions for the record. And so that concludes today's hearing. Thank you again.